Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the Big 8, which is a concept I learned about from a Huffington Post article that I will have linked down in the description for you to kind of read a bit more about. I'm just going to be highlighting the main key points from that article in today's video. Basically, this video was very instrumental in me learning a lot more about my specific life interests and how they affected my time at my 9-to-5 job, and it ultimately helped me decide what my options were in terms of paths to take from here. And I will talk a bit more about the different paths that I could take and the one I ultimately decided to take and why at the end of the video. But first, I'm going to start by going through the 8 life interests that the Huffington Post identified in this article. So basically, they did some research over a number of years and ended up with about 650 people in their study, where they learned that there was an obvious trend of 8 embedded life interests that people have when it comes to work and business. But in my experience, after reading this, I think it's clear that it's not just life and business, and that these life interests actually feed into our personal lives as well. So first, I'm just going to run through the different 8 life interests and give you kind of like a brief synopsis of what they each mean. The first one is application of technology, and basically the article identifies this for somebody that is really interested in new software or hardware, either in their personal life or at work. They are often into kind of taking things apart just to figure out how they actually work and then putting them back together. And yes, this could be your basic like engineers, coders, computer scientists, but it is also a trait that anyone could have even if they're not from a STEM background. The next one is the interest of quantitative analysis, and basically it means that you enjoy numbers. You like making decisions based off of numbers, you like looking at the data and understanding how everything works, and overall taking that information to make big decisions, whether about your personal finances, business finances. The next one is theory development and conceptual thinking. So this is basically those who like thinking and talking about abstract ideas. They're often more concerned with the why of things rather than the how. And usually these are like the big picture thinkers. They are able to kind of look at the forest all together instead of looking at the individual trees. The next one is creative production. So the key trait with this one would be someone who's more interested in the beginning of a project than the rest of the project. They like kind of the planning and the brainstorming process. They enjoy trying to make something out of nothing, thinking outside the box, and trying to understand the unknowns for a project or problem and try to figure out how to plan for them. Usually you can tell who these people are because they wear their life interests on their sleeves, and they often aren't as interested in things that are already created. They don't really want to talk about businesses that are established and done, or new products or ideas that are already completed. They more want to talk about the new things that aren't out there yet and kind of just brainstorming new ideas. The next one is counseling and mentoring. These people have an interest in guiding others and helping others, and it's usually to get some type of satisfaction out of seeing the other person succeed or be happy from their success. And a lot of times these people are obvious because they will talk about others, whether in their personal life or at work, in a way that almost a parent would talk about a child. So they're talking about them in this positive way, showing their accomplishments and what they've achieved and how they've grown over time. And it's almost like this fond memory of who they were and now what they've become. In a related tone, the next one is managing people in relationships. These people get a lot of satisfaction from workplace relationships, but they're much more interested in the outcomes more than they are the actual growth that the person goes through, such as in the counseling or mentoring category. Basically, they like working with others to help them achieve their goals and also help them be able to kind of interact with other employees in the workplace. The next one is enterprise control, and I feel like the easier way to describe this is someone who would enjoy being a CEO. So they kind of like being the decision maker, being in charge of things. They like to feel like they have authority, and overall, they're happiest when they're running a project or a team. And the last one is influence through language and ideas. So these people are most fulfilled when they're either writing or speaking or even both, and they like to kind of sit around and think about their specific audience and how to best communicate with them. So those are the 8 life interests, and now I'm going to tell you guys specifically what my top 2 were when I did this. And the study showed that most people fall between the range of 1 and 3 deeply embedded life interests, and I really resonated the most with these 2. So it was pretty obvious to me when I read this, and it probably will be the same for you. I suggest you read the article if you're kind of interested in seeing which of these resonate with you the most. But as I was reading them, you know, all the ones that I didn't resonate with, it was like, okay, bored. But then when I got to creative production and counseling and mentoring, it was super clear to me immediately, like, yes, like that is completely me. I'm super passionate about that. And I think it was just really obvious. Like, it clicked immediately when I read it. Let me know in the comments down below if you go read the article or just like listen to what I said, and there's like specific ones that really resonated with you. So in my 9-to-5 job, there wasn't a lot of areas for creative production. They had some opportunities opportunities for it. Like we had this like entrepreneurship roundtable where we would discuss new ideas as a company that we could put forward in like technology and development, but I never really resonated with it much. And I think it's because I wasn't super interested in the topics at hand. I was in transportation engineering and consulting and transportation planning, and I really like transportation as a whole and I'm interested in it, but when it came to creative production, I was less interested with it. But within my day-to-day work, it was really obvious to me that I was always much more interested with the start of a project and kind of planning things out. I always liked talking to the project managers about how they created the schedule and how they created the budget. I liked the planning process. I loved being involved in the brainstorm discussions. Even if I didn't have a lot of knowledge about it, if I was able to just like listen in and hear what others were thinking about, I thought that was super fun. But once the decisions were made and we were doing the actual work, I was much less interested. And I don't know if that's just like a common thing for a lot of people or if it's just something that I think is common because it's like so common for me, but I've always just loved planning and creating new things. Like throughout my life, I've always had planners every year and was so excited to start a new planner. I always loved coming up with new business ideas or actually starting new business ventures. Honestly, starting back when I was in middle school, I had like a nail design business where I would paint other people's nails and charge them. Then in high school, I had my first Etsy shop where I was creating this idea. I actually had two different ideas with Etsy shops in high school, one with my sister and one with one of my best friends. Then in college, I actually decided to open an Etsy shop selling vintage thrifted clothing that I would specifically source and then take photos of, post on Etsy and sell them that way. And I actually did that pretty consistently for about a year, but ultimately decided it wasn't really my jam. But I enjoyed the whole idea of learning about how Etsy works, setting up all the processes and like figuring out how I was actually going to do it was super fun for me. And then ultimately at the end of college, and then mainly once I moved to Washington, DC and started my 9-to-5 job, I started my YouTube channel, which brought me here. And I've always enjoyed YouTube because each video is like a new project. You come up with a new idea, you do the research, you plan it out, and then you create the video like I'm doing right now. Basically, I've always had a passion for creative production, and that was super clear to me immediately. Now, counseling and mentoring was a lot less clear back in the day for me. It's something that now that I'm aware of it, it's super obvious that this is a passion of mine, but growing up, I definitely was that friend that everyone came to kind of get some advice or clarity about something or just an ear to listen. I had one of my best friends in high school always called me her life coach because I was just the person she would come to for questions about things that she was going through in life and she needed help like planning things out or just talking things through to make decisions. I've just always been kind of like that coach or mentor for a lot of my friends in my life. But the thing was, I never realized that it was a passion. I just thought it was something I was good at and people came to me for it and I fulfilled it. And that was pretty much it. But once I was in my 9-to-5 job, it was really clear to me that it was a passion because I had no mental capacity to help anyone else anymore. I pretty much dropped the idea of making any type of like helpful informational videos because for me, it was too draining. Like I was way too stressed for my job all the time. I did not have any mental energy to help or coach others. And a lot of times I had to turn down my friends when they would reach out to me asking for any advice or help because I just mentally couldn't do it. I was not there and couldn't help. And what I started to realize is that I actually was missing out. I missed being able to do that and I loved doing it, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And I had to say no for my own mental well-being. That's when it became super clear to me that it was a big passion of mine. Once I literally saw that not doing it made me unhappy and unfulfilled in my life. So when I was in my 9-to-5 job, I did try to get some opportunities to kind of do mentoring and counseling at my job. It was a little bit hard because I was like an entry-level staff as well. But what I ultimately decided on after kind of talking with someone who was mentoring me was that if I was able to help people that kind of started during COVID and were just trying to get their footing with the company and like didn't know a lot about the company, I did have kind of a leg up there because I'd been there already for over a year before I started working there full time. I was like a part-time intern. So I was able to kind of like mentor in some small ways those who were new to the company and that started after me. So that's something I did pretty early on, but it was really hard for me to be able to do that enough because we had a strict utilization rate target at my job and I had to meet that utilization rate each week by doing billable work since it was a consulting firm. So I didn't have a lot of time to be able to dedicate to mentoring and counseling unless I wanted to work more than 45 hours per week, which I myself did not want to do because I was already burnt out from what I was working. So after I read this article, kind of came to this realization situation and I was already debating leaving my job, it was clear to me that there were specifically 3 options for what path I could take moving forward to kind of take this new information and actually apply it to my life. So the first option would be to reach out more to people in my company and make it really clear that if I am not able to kind of fulfill these interests of mine in some way, that I'm ultimately going to be unhappy at the job and I'm going to end up leaving. The second option was to find another job, whether in a similar field or a completely different field, that met these 2 core interests for me a bit more. And the third one is to combine my interests of creative production and counseling and mentoring to create and work on a YouTube channel as well as a coaching program to help other people like me. So obviously I didn't choose the first option because you've probably seen my why I quit my job video, but I ultimately decided that I needed some time to heal from my burnout anyways. We're kind of in like this waiting period where my husband's looking to apply to medical school next year and we really don't know where we're going to be moving. So any other job I did have would be very temporary and I would probably have to quit that job in a year from now if we stayed in DC. And because of all of these reasons, I decided, you know what, let's go for option number 3 for now. If all else fails, then I can always go back to option number 2 and try to figure out a job that will fit these passions and interests of mine that I can work in, whether a 9-to-5 basis or something else. But overall, life is about taking risks and doing what feels right to you in this current period of time. And I think that's the important part, is what feels right now might not feel right in the future. When I accepted my job offer at my job, I felt really good about it. I was happy, I was content, I thought I was making the best choice for me, and at the time I was making the best choice for me. But at the end of the day, we have to kind of reevaluate as time goes on in our lives and say, okay, is this now still the best choice for me? Is there a different path that I could take that will be a better option for me? And right now, this is the better option. I've really enjoyed connecting with you all on this platform and kind of building this community of other people who are also kind of going through this transition and having experiences with counseling and mentoring other people that are going through similar situations. I am so glad that I picked path number 3, even if that means that I'm not making as much money and I also have to do a lot of other kind of laborious jobs such as Instacart and cat sitting and anything else I can do to kind of make some side money to make ends meet. But right now, this path feels so right to me. And I want to ask you guys next, what path are you on right now? And does it feel right for you? And if not, what can you do to change that? And I hope this video gave you some insight to kind of see what path that you're currently on and if it lines up with maybe some of these key interests that you have in your own life, and maybe gave you some ideas of new paths that you could take and what those different options look like, what the pros and cons are, so you can kind of make an informed decision about what to do next. If this video was helpful for you, make sure to give it a thumbs up and share it with someone else who might find it useful. But that is all I have for you guys today. Definitely let me know down in the comments below what your top 2 or 3 life interests were, and if you've brainstorm potential paths that you might be taking in the future. I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. Like I say in every video, if you want to chat about this more with me, please DM me on Instagram. I love chatting with you all on there, and I would love to hear specifically about what you learned from this video. And if you have any specific questions you want to ask me, that's always a great place to reach out where we can actually kind of connect on like a one-on-one level. Definitely reach out to me there. I will have my Instagram handle right here as well as in the description box below. But other than that, I will see you guys on Monday with another video. Bye.